Hello, everybody. Welcome into GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, or as they say on the NFL calendar, a league new year. All of the moves that happened over the last 2 days officially can be completed. All of the players that were going to get cut officially will get cut. So the NFL is now officially in 2025, 2026 mode. We are going to talk about a couple more moves that took place today. Some trades. The Bills stay busy in free agency. We're going to get into all of that, as well as where some of the remaining free agents, the big name free agents, might end up. Then we'll turn our attention to basketball. Wednesdays bring the NBA power rankings, of course. We'll go over what the season might look like for the Minnesota Twins. And of course, we'll finish it off with a little bit of the NHL. Hockey's been popping off recently with just about 15 games to go left in their season. We're going to do a roundup where everyone stands and what the playoffs might look like as we get to a heated race in a couple of these divisions. But before we get into any of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, March 12th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into a little bit about the Bills and Joey Bosa, as well as a couple other major moves that took place today. We're going to start off with Joey Bosa. The former Chargers pass rusher signed a 1-year, $12 million deal to join the Buffalo Bills. At 29 years old, Joey Bosa had a bit of a resurgent season. The former Defensive Rookie of the Year had 5 sacks in 14 games played, 9 games started. That's the most games he's played since 2021, which also was the last year he made the Pro Bowl. This was, when you look at the stat sheet, not really an eye-popping kind of season. I think he coasted in there a little bit off of name value and the fact that that defense as a whole was pretty good last season. But Joey Bosa still, one of the most important things for him is the fact that he was healthier than usual. He hasn't played a full 17-game season in his entire career. He played back when they were 16-game seasons, and early on in his career, he was able to get those done. He did it his first 2 years of his career. He did it as recently as 2021, but he hasn't been able to play a full season. He went into the double-digit games for the first time this year, again, since 2021. So that is a good sign. But he did only have 5 sacks last year, just 19 pressures per Pro Football Reference, and 13 QB hits. But he joins a line stacked with talent. You want to talk about Khalil Mack on the other side. This is a team that has a lot on the other side, right? You have Greg Rousseau, who just signed a new extension, 4 years, $80 million. He was a monster on the edge last year. They also brought in Larry Ogunjobi from the Steelers after they released him. That is a huge guy to have on the inside. Lots of attention not being put on Joey Bosa and Ed Oliver, who's just a monster over there for a Bill. That is a dangerous front four, one of the best in the NFL right away, if Joey Bosa can get back to his Defensive Rookie of the Year form. It's been a while since he was a truly elite pass rusher, but even if he plays like he did last year, even if he plays as a serviceable pass rusher number 2, a guy that's going to get you 5 to 7 sacks, it's still pretty good for the Bills. The Bills have had a pretty solid offseason. Not only were they able to free up money by paying a lot of money to Josh Allen, but they were able to then use that money to bring back the guys that were important. We talked about Greg Rousseau. They brought back Terrell Bernard, their linebacker, captain of that defense. They brought back Damar Hamlin. They brought back Khalil Shakir. They brought in former Chargers receiver. They brought in a lot of guys to come help this team, right? This is a team, a Bills team, that has done a lot to get better, a lot to go out and beat the Chiefs, and I think they've done an excellent job this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But they weren't done with moves today, as they traded away Kaiir Elam. Kaiir Elam was a failure of a first-round pick for the Bills. Somehow, a team is interested in him to trade. He came in and basically was one of the main reasons why they lost that game against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game last year. He just has not worked out since coming on the field. He never really has been someone that the Bills trusted, but they're able to flip him and a sixth-round pick, sending over to Dallas with the Cowboys after the Cowboys lost a couple of cornerbacks for themselves, including Jordan Lewis. That one's going to hurt a little bit. They get a fifth and a seventh-round pick for Kyer Elam. So they're not getting all of their investment back, but what they are doing is they're getting some draft picks back. And the fact that they're able to get multiple draft picks, even if it's just a fifth and a seventh for Kyer Elam, is kind of shocking to me. The Cowboys continue to go out and make trades that are a little bit head-scratching. They also traded for Kenneth Murray, a guy that went out there 14 games last season, 95 tackles for the Titans. I think they're trying to do a little bit too much, a little bit too late. This is a team that needs to focus on bringing in Micah Parsons, this Cowboys team. This is a team that needs to focus on shoring up the offensive line a little bit after some retirements. And this is a team that continues to need to stop taking losses like they did yet again. Focus on the guys in their own house, because if they don't, they're going to lose more guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, who signed with the Seattle Seahawks a 3-year, $42 million deal last season. DeMarcus Lawrence, dealing with injuries last season, wasn't as effective as you might expect him to, but I love this signing for the Seahawks. This is a Seahawks team that still confuses me to my core, right? They must see something different in Sam Darnold than I do, or in their offensive line than I do, because this is a team that is doing everything except address the offensive line. And they're doing everything pretty solid, right? They go out and they get Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who worked well with their new offensive coordinator, Kubiak, who was with the Saints last season. They go out and they re-sign Ernest Jones IV. That is a massive re-sign for them. They bring in DeMarcus Lawrence. I love that signing. DeMarcus Lawrence is a beast on the inside. DeMarcus Lawrence is someone that, if he's able to stay healthy, will be a problem for opposing offensive lines and opposing quarterbacks, but he needs to stay healthy. But they still haven't addressed their biggest problem. They go out, they get Sam Darnold to replace Geno Smith after trading him away. They haven't really gotten him a true receiver to replace Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Maybe they can go out and get one of the guys still out there. But they continue to add to this defense, which is good. They'll be a solid team, but I just don't really think they're doing anything that's going to push them over the top from where they were a season ago. And the last big move that took place today was Evan Engram. Evan Engram, since leaving the Giants and joining the Jaguars, has been one of the more consistent tight ends when he's on the field. He continues to struggle with injuries, but Evan Engram getting on the field with Jacksonville, his connection with Trevor Lawrence has been really impressive, right? He signs with the Broncos, 2 years, $23 million, $16 million of which is guaranteed. That is a dangerous offense now. We've talked a little bit about how the Broncos have had a pretty solid offseason, right? They were in our honorable mentions yesterday when we talked about winners and losers for free agency, bringing in Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga from the 49ers to shore up a defense that was already one of the best in football. They also go out and now they get another offensive piece. One of the biggest weaknesses, and whenever I've done my mock drafts, I've consistently mocked them to take a tight end, whether that be Loveland out of Michigan or Warren if he falls that far, like he did in one of my mock drafts. But now that they get Engram, a guy that can be a very competent pass catcher for Bo Nix underneath, they still have Cortland Sutton. They still have Marvin Mims, who really came on down the stretch last season. This is a team, this is a Broncos team, that is looking to build on the success they had last year with Bo Nix. And the way that defense is built is going to be very, very scary. You already have the reigning defensive player of the year in your cornerback room. Now you're going to go out and continue to add to a already stout pass rush and already stout secondary and get more weapons for your young quarterback. I love what they're doing. I absolutely love what this Broncos team is going to look like next season. It's a tough division. They still have to compete with the Chiefs. They still have to compete with the Chargers, who made the playoffs last year. They still need to compete with the Raiders, who I have also loved their offseason, bringing in a top 10 quarterback. It's pretty impressive, right? But Overall, this is a Broncos team that's climbing the tiers of teams, and I'm tempted to give their offseason an A so far, but we'll get to offseason grades in the next week when everything really starts to calm down. But let me know what your thoughts are. What do you think of Joey Bosa signing with the Bills? Do you think it's going to be that move that pushes them over the top? What do you think about the Cowboys? They've been busy, but I think in the wrong way. And how do you think that Evan Ingram is going to fit with the Broncos? I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the free agents that have yet to make a decision. Your Aaron Rodgerses, your Russell Wilsons, your wide receivers at the top of the league. We'll talk about where they might end up coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, if you were just tuning in. We just went over some of the big moves from free agency day 3, the first official day of the new league calendar. In this segment, we turn our attention to the guys that have not signed. Your Aaron Rodgerses, your top quarterbacks, your top wide receivers, your guys that continue to wait and wait and wait for the right opportunity. We'll talk about where they might end up. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, March 12th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into a little bit about the mystery remaining for these top free agents. Where are these guys going to go? And we're going to start off with the quarterbacks, of course, the stars of the show, the most important position in the sport, the most important position in all of sports, the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are the last two big dominoes to find a place to fall. There's a couple stragglers when it comes to the backup quarterback market, but right now, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are kind of the two quarterbacks that's going to be 1A and 1B for a lot of these teams. Right now, it seems like between the Giants and Steelers, one of these teams is going to get the guy they want in Aaron Rodgers, and one of these teams is going to be left with the leftovers in Russell Wilson. But none of that is guaranteed. That's just what the reporting seems to be right now. Right now, it looks like Russell Wilson is taking a meeting over in Cleveland to talk to the Browns. Aaron Rodgers, there's still a little bit of hope or a little bit of an inkling that potentially the Vikings are in on him to complete his Brett Favre transition. But really, it seems like for these two guys, the Giants and the Steelers are the last two on their wish list, or not their wish list, on their list here. The Giants have heavily pursued Aaron Rodgers ever since falling short in the Matthew Stafford sweepstakes. They've been in on these old quarterbacks all year long. And the reason why is because Joe Schoen and their head coach Brian Daboll both on a very, very short leash. This is a Giants team that needs to show that it's going to be able to win and win now. And to their credit, I think they're close. Right now, the only quarterback on that Giants roster is Tommy DeVito. You throw him out there, it's going to be a disaster. But when you look at especially the defensive side of the ball, and you can yell at me, call me a biased fan all you want, but I truly do believe that this Giants team is closer to being good than a lot of people think, right? You go out and get a competent quarterback. I'm not saying that they're going to be a Super Bowl contending team, but you throw Aaron Rodgers a year removed from surgery, and Aaron Rodgers that threw for 3,000 yards last season, and Aaron Rodgers that threw for nearly 30 touchdowns to just 10 interceptions, basically, right? 28-11, his touchdown to interception ratio. But this is an Aaron Rodgers that still has a little bit of juice left in his tank. You're telling me that giving him a guy like Malik Neighbors, who set the wide receiver rookie reception record while dealing with a combination of Tommy DeVito and Zach Boyle and Tom Boyle and Daniel Jones last season and Drew Lock, you're telling me that that's not something that entices that guy, but on the defensive side of the ball is really where it makes the difference. So for these guys that are looking to win games, not stall out with a really bad team at the end of their career, they're going to come into a situation with potentially one of the best defensive linemen in the sport in Dexter Lawrence, paired next to a pretty good pass rusher in Brian Burns. The secondary got a lot better. You've already got Tyler Nubin, who was a rookie last season, played every single snap, basically. He was pretty good. You then go out and you get safety Javon Holland to pair next to him. Pretty solid. You sign Paulson Adebo to go opposite of Drew Phillips, who had a really solid rookie year, and you still have Deonte Banks, who had a bit of a down season, but in his rookie year was pretty solid. It's a solid defense. The linebackers, I like them. They're nothing to write home about. But this is a Giants team that isn't as far as a lot of people think from competing. So if Aaron Rodgers goes there, it's not going to be one of the worst moves ever. It's also not going to be a great move. The Steelers, probably a better spot to be. I still think Aaron Rodgers wants to stay in that New York market. He is a guy that seems to like the attention, like the spotlight, and New York is the place to go for that. If not, Russell Wilson has lots of connections to New York, right? When he was a baseball player, he was drafted by the Yankees, went to go to play in their spring training when he was with the Seahawks a whole bunch. There's still connections over there for him. Obviously, he also has connections to the Steelers, but we'll see what happens. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are visiting both of these teams over the course of the next week. I think right now Aaron Rodgers is going to end up as a Giant and Russell Wilson is going to return to the Steelers. The Steelers have said they want to return one of the two quarterbacks. Justin Fields already gone. Russell Wilson, familiar with the system enough, you get another weapon for him to throw moonballs to. This, I think, just makes a little bit more sense than Aaron Rodgers if you're trying to find a quarterback that's not going to completely take away the culture of that team in Aaron Rodgers. I just think at the end of the day, the Giants are willing to pay more money than the Steelers are because they are reeking of desperation to find a great quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers might not qualify as that anymore, but he was at one point, and there are guys in that front office and on that sideline that are trying to save their jobs. So I think Aaron Rodgers goes to the Giants. Russell Wilson ends up with the Steelers. Now, when it comes to wide receiver, one of the biggest piece of news dropped today. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is now a free agent. They could not find a trade partner, and as they threatened to do when the new league year hit, they cut Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, now a free agent. He has the ability to go wherever he wants. And there are plenty of wide receiver needy teams. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind, at least for me, is a guy down in Dallas that's been a little busy in this secondary free agent market, as I'll call it, after a lot of the big guys have already been snatched up. Cooper Kupp is going to be a hot commodity, and I think a team like the Cowboys might be super interested in him. We were talking about a team that might overpay for a guy. It's going to be the Cowboys. They're desperately looking for that second weapon to pair with CeeDee Lamb. Cooper Kupp could be that guy for Dak Prescott, for whoever quarterbacks that team if he gets hurt. This is not a guarantee, but I think the Cowboys make a lot of sense. I also think the Seahawks make a lot of sense for him. You need to get a guy that can still be a veteran present for JSN. He really stepped up last season, but to have a guy in that locker room behind him, Cooper Kupp makes a lot of sense over there. The Jets always like to have more wide receivers, right? You have Garrett Wilson, but get another wide receiver in there could be pretty solid. And then the Titans always look for these old wide receivers. The Cardinals, I think, could be pretty interesting. I think a lot of people in the Rams division are going to be very interested in going and getting a guy like Cooper Kupp. The Cardinals, the Seahawks, both teams that have competed against him twice a year for a very long time, want to use his skills, pair him up next to their young number one wide receiver. I think that could work out for both of them. But I think at the end of the day, the Cowboys are the team that go out and get Cooper Kupp. A couple other aging wide receivers that are still at the top of the wide receiver market. Stephon Diggs coming off of an injury. Because he's coming off injury, I just don't really see the market for him. I think he returns to the Texans, comes back later in the season. Amari Cooper, I think, goes cross the country again, teams up with a Harbaugh brother, plays with the Chargers. He's going to be exactly the kind of guy that they need to put opposite of Ladd McConkey, a guy that can stretch the field. He didn't have a great season last year, but I still think there's a lot left in him, and you pair him up with an elite quarterback like Justin Herbert, even though it didn't work with MVP quarterback Josh Allen because of injuries and not really being able to get in the lineup and get situated. I think the Chargers can do wonders with him. And Keenan Allen, I think he returns to the Bears. Keenan Allen, there's a lot of places he could go. He's a guy that I think would fit wonderfully as a wide receiver 3 on just about any team. But it seems like he wants to go back to the Bears, keep working with Caleb Williams. They had a pretty solid connection at the end of last season when everything was not going right for them. But I think a return to the Bears makes a lot of sense. On the defensive side of the ball, there's still a couple players out there that I think could make a lot of noise. Von Miller is someone, and I think to end his career, he's not going to sign for a long time. I think Von Miller is a guy that's going to take his sweet time, but I do see a potential reunion in the Mile High City, coming back to the place where he was a Super Bowl MVP. Going back to the Rams, another place he won a Super Bowl for the warm weather. I was thinking a Florida team just because taxes, but I'm thinking Von Miller back to the Broncos makes a lot of sense. And the last one, a younger guy, Azeez Ojulari, formerly of the New York Giants, is an excellent pass rusher. He hasn't really gotten his chance to shine because he's been hurt, but when he's been on the field, he's been amazing. We're talking about a team that desperately needs pass rushing after losing a lot. How about the Philadelphia Eagles going out and getting another former New York Giant and making him a star? I think Azeez fitting into that culture after, they've lost a lot of their guys. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, a lot of other pass rushers. This is a spot that I think would be perfect for Ojulari, and I think him on the Eagles or the Falcons makes a lot of sense. And then Justin Simmons. The Titans desperately want a safety. They were in on the sweepstakes for Javon Holland. They did not get him. I think he ends up in Tennessee, and Justin Simmons finds a new home with the Tennessee Titans. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of this. Where do you think any of these guys go? Where do you think the biggest fish in free agency end up? I'd love to hear what you think. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention over to the NBA. The NBA Power Rankings hot off the press once again every single Wednesday. We'll be right back here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now. Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, if you were just tuning in. We just finished going over where some of the top free agents in the NFL might end up. In this segment, we turn our attention to the NBA. It is Wednesday, which means NBA Power Rankings once again. We'll go over all 30 teams, where they find themselves in this week's rankings, with a shakeup at the bottom, a shakeup at the top as well. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, March 12th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the NBA Power Rankings here, and we're going to start off the day here at number 30, where a new team find themselves down there for the first time in almost 2 months. The Utah Jazz have taken over the crown as the worst team in the NBA. They are the only team right now without a chance to make the NBA postseason. They are the first team eliminated. Congratulations to the Utah Jazz. They still don't quite have the best odds in the NBA lottery, but the Wizards are catching up to them, and they have officially fallen below them in our NBA Power Rankings. At number 29, not too much of a climb for those Wizards. They're up to number 29 here. Only one spot up for them, but still a massive improvement. Ever since the trade deadline when they got that veteran presence of Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart, this is a team that's defense has gotten a lot better, allowing them to play in closer games, win a few more than we were expecting them to. The one bad thing about that, despite all the positive outcomes for this young roster, a team that could explode in talent if they just get the right amount of development from their guys. Alex Sarr's been playing a lot better. Keontae George has been shooting a lot better from three. This is a team that, has a lot to look forward to. It's just not there. And they're playing their way out of that number 1 overall pick right now, which could hurt them in the future. At number 28, the Charlotte Hornets stay above the Washington Wizards here. They've just been bad. There's not a lot of good to say about this Charlotte Hornets team, but the Charlotte Hornets continue to be just injured and not working out the way that we expected them to. This is a team that had play-in potential if everyone stayed healthy, but unfortunately injuries have just ravaged their season a little bit too much. The Raptors at 27 here continue to stay near the top of the bottom feeders just because they have a lot of talent. Bringing in a guy like Brandon Ingram has done pretty good for them. But this is still a team that's not going to make a deep run in the postseason by any stretch of the imagination. This is a Raptors squad that has a lot of young guys, kind of like the Wizards. They're a little further on in their development. Last year, they make a play-in spot. I think they can get back there pretty easily next season. The Philadelphia 76ers find themselves at number 26 on our NBA Power Rankings here. This is a team that, again, a lot of these teams at the bottom you can blame injuries on. Injuries, once again, have derailed this Philadelphia 76ers teams. You had a young talent developing in Jared McCain. He is done for the season. He's been done for a while. Paul George, continues to be in and out of the lineup and not playing his best ball. Tyrese Maxey's been playing injured. Joel Embiid shut down for the season yet again. This is a Philadelphia 76ers squad that had Eastern Conference champion on their mind at the beginning of the year when they brought in Paul George, but instead they're looking to be in the top of the lottery. So hasn't really worked out the way that they expected to. The Brooklyn Nets here at number 25. The Brooklyn Nets continue to be just a little bit too good for what they're trying to be. They've got a flamethrower in Cam Thomas. Cam Jordan can shoot the lights out of the ball. This is a team that's refusing to get rid of those guys for good reason. Those are guys that you want to build around, but it's also making it hard for them to tank. They're still doing a good enough job where they're going to get a top pick, most likely one of the lottery picks, but they need to start losing a couple more games if they want to stay down there. They almost took care of the Cleveland Cavaliers last night. That would have been crazy. At number 24, the New Orleans Pelicans sit here. They've been climbing a bit. They still can't shoot the ball. They've lost 4 straight games, so maybe I've put them a little too high, but I love what this team has shown me since Zion's been back. Zion Williamson has been playing excellent basketball. He put up another triple-double the other night against the Clippers. He's playing great basketball, and I think we need to give the Pelicans a little bit of their flowers. Injuries, yet again, have ravaged this team, but I think with Zion back, they can make a little bit of late-season noise like they did last week. At 23, I've got the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs just kind of been an afterthought ever since Victor Wembanyama went down. De'Aaron Fox, playing fine basketball. You still need that seemingly number one star next to him for that team to be, what they truly want to be. They're still making a push for potentially that 10 seed after everything that's going on with the Dallas Mavericks, but this season is pretty much dead. The wind is out of their sails. At 22, we have the Portland Trail Blazers. They fall a spot from last week just because a couple teams have been playing great ball. They've lost a couple in a row. But since the trade deadline, they're tied with the Denver Nuggets. 15-6 since the trade deadline. They are a team that is hot and on the hunt for that play-in spot, and I think they've got a real chance to go out and get it. The Portland Trail Blazers at 22 probably, I think, steal that last spot in the West. At number 21, we have the Chicago Bulls. You talk about a team that's getting hot right now. How about the Bulls? Josh Giddey playing amazing basketball. I didn't think this team was going to amount to much this season, but they've surprised me. They continue to climb. They're playing the best ball of the season right now, and maybe they can find a way in to make some noise as we get further on into the playoffs. Just about 20 games to go for every single one of these teams. The Miami Heat at number 20. They've been consistently the Heat, right? They're going to play in the play-in tournaments. They're just not anything special right now. They're waiting on their guys to really turn it up. There's a real chance for them to make, I don't know how much noise, but I think they could give some teams trouble if they get that hot shooting that they're known for in the playoffs. I just don't think this Miami Heat team has the same juice as it has in years past. They're still here at number 20. At 19, it's the Dallas Mavericks, a team that is holding on to dear life for that final spot in that play-in tournament at that number 10 seed in the West. They are scratching and clawing their way to not fall to their graves, right? This is a team that everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. Kyrie Irving, out. Luka Doncic, traded. Fans, disappearing. You've lost over $1 billion in your estimation for this team, which is wild. It's almost impossible for a team to lose value. The Mavericks have found a way to do it. They're here at 19, and they're on the middle of a basically free fall to the bottom of the league right now. At number 18, we have the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic here, injuries derailed their season a little bit. They could still find their way into the playoffs and make a little bit of noise maybe if they can get healthy then, but injuries continue to hit them at the wrong time. Whenever they think they're getting a little more healthy, more injuries hit them, and it just hasn't been the kind of season that they or I expected out of them. The Atlanta Hawks at number 17 here, getting near the top half of the league. They've played good basketball recently. I think the additions that they made at the trade deadline, despite me flaming them, has worked out pretty well. I was out there calling them losers of the deadline. I wasn't sure what they were doing, but some of the moves they've made have worked out pretty solidly, and I think the Hawks going out there still kind of the same as they were the last couple seasons, a play-in team that could be a little dangerous, but not too much new out of them. The Phoenix Suns hit that number 16 mark to finish off the first half of the NBA Power Rankings. The Phoenix Suns, with Bradley Beal sitting out half of their last 15 games, have started to play a little bit better, right? You have Kevin Durant still playing at a really good level. This is a team that, again, is fighting for that number 10 seed in the West. They're a team with the Portland Trail Blazers. One of those teams probably going to get it. They've got that star power to try and push them through it, but there's just not enough on this team for me to believe that this team is, even if they make it to that 10 seed, going to make it out of that 9-10 game. Getting into the top half of the league now, we have the Sacramento Kings. This is a team led by now your new star, Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine has played amazing basketball ever since he's got shipped up to Sacramento, and this is a team that's staying afloat in the Western Conference, potentially could get out of that play-in area if they continue to play this well. I don't think they're going to quite get there, but this is a team that could be scrappy. Maybe if they get to that 6 seed, could cause some trouble for the 3 seed in the West. At 14, the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers have been, really good with James Harden. Kawhi Leonard's playing some good basketball again. They're still winning games. They're waiting on Powell to come back. Bogdanovich has stepped up in the meantime. They're still shooting the lights out of the ball. James Harden, I really underestimated what he could be this season. I thought the Clippers would be bottom feeders this season. Instead, they've come out, played amazing basketball, and they're going to find their way into the playoffs probably as that 6th seed. The Minnesota Timberwolves at number 13. The Minnesota Timberwolves are finally getting healthy. We talked a lot about injuries at the bottom half of this power rankings, but it affects the top half as well. Anthony Edwards has powered them through it to the best of his abilities, but you get Julius Randle back. They have won the last 10 games with Julius Randle in the lineup, including 5 games in a row right now. This is a Minnesota Timberwolves team that is on fire, and this is a Minnesota Timberwolves team that you don't want to face if they're hot at the right time. The Pistons fall 2 spots to number 12. They're out of the top 10. It's nothing against them. I just think a couple teams have started to play better. They're basically in a dead tie. If I could do 10-10-10 for the Bucks, Pacers, and Pistons, that's what I would do. That 4, 5, 6 spot in the East is going to be a bloodbath. We saw the Pacers take care of business against the Bucks last night with a crazy 4-point play by Tyrese Halliburton. But the Pistons still tied with them, all 3 of those teams in a deadlock down the stretch. Those 2 are the next teams on our list. We've got 11 the Pacers and 10 the Bucks. I know the Pacers just beat them, but I think the Bucks are playing a little bit of better basketball right now. That is a crazy shot for them to win it. And I think at the end of the day, the Bucks are still the better team, but in my mind, those 3 teams are all tied for 10th in the NBA as it stands. The Pistons, the Pacers, and the Bucks right there. The Rockets sit at number 9. They continue to slip a little bit, but they're still going to hold on near the top of that Western Conference. Maybe they might fall to the number 5 seed, but they should stay out of the play-in. Be nice to see them get some home court advantage, but really the most important thing for them is to show up in the playoffs. If they can show up with this young squad in the playoffs, they know that the team is right. They had that blistering hot start to the beginning of the year. They're starting to slip a little bit, but still in the top 10. At number 8, we have the Golden State Warriors. They've only lost one game since Jimmy Butler has joined the team. 10-1 over that stretch. Steph Curry has been amazing. The way that he's able to move without the ball now that he's not getting double and triple teamed. This is a team that is hot. This is a team that will be dangerous. And I think if they get the right matchup, they could take out one of these top teams in the West. At number 7, we have the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks here at number 7 are just this low because they have struggled to beat the best teams. When they play the teams that aren't in the top 3 of each conference, they dominate, right? But when they play the teams that are in the top 3 of each conference, they just can't get anything done. They lose all of these games, sometimes in heartbreaking fashion. An injury to their best player, Jalen Brunson, against the Lakers in overtime, not a good look. He should be back soon, thank goodness, but still, the Knicks need him. They need to find a way to beat these top teams if they want to make any kind of noise in the playoffs this year. Getting into the top 6, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. A little bit of a backseat has been taken this season by John Morant, but JJJ, gonna win Defensive Player of the Year, should be up there for MVP voting, not necessarily in candidacy to win it, because you've got a pretty good battle between the number 1 and 2 right there. But the Memphis Grizzlies have a complete team. Depth up and down the lineup. Rookies stepping up. Young guys playing great basketball. This is a dangerous Grizzlies team. They're flying under the radar a little bit because maybe they don't match up the best against some of these teams, but I do really like this Grizzlies team a lot, and they are going to be very dangerous when we get to playoff time. Getting into the top 5, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. This is a team that was red hot when everything was clicking, but then all of a sudden the injury bug bit them. LeBron James goes down. He could be out for a couple weeks. He rejoined the team tonight. Luka Doncic is dealing with some more injuries. Austin Reeves has missed a couple games. Jackson Hayes missing a couple games. Rui Hachimura has missed a couple games. That is basically their entire starting lineup, missing some time. They need to get them back for the playoffs because when they're up there, they're arguably a team that can contend for the championship this year. At number 4, we have the Denver Nuggets. You talk about heavyweight battle. We have the Denver Nuggets going back-to-back against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That was a crazy game, right? It was a battle between the number 1 MVP candidate and the number 2 MVP candidate. I don't think it really changed too much. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still going to win the MVP, but hats off to Jokic. He's playing amazing basketball, currently averaging a triple-double again. It's crazy. I just think at this point, what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has done is going to be enough, combined with voter fatigue, for Jokic to come in second in this award this year. At number 3, we have the Boston Celtics. They're starting to get healthy again. And don't look now, but when they are hot, they are impossible to stop, right? This is a team that if you catch them on the right night, they are going to not miss a shot, and they're going to put up 200 points on your head, right? They'll hit a barrage of about 60 for 80 from three-point range, and you will just sit there like, what just happened? This is a crazy talented team. This is a team that is basically the same, if not better, than last year's finals winning team, just with a little bit bad injury luck. This is a very dangerous team that no one in the East wants to play when it comes to the playoffs. But the top 2 has stayed relatively the same all season long. At number 2, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder come into this week's power rankings still near the top of the league, right? They split those games with Jokic and the Nuggets. SGA still probably, in my opinion, the MVP, but the gap is closing a little bit as we get down the stretch. This is a Thunder team that needs Chet to get back in and playing good basketball. He played a little bit, didn't look his best, but he's playing, and that's what's important. At number 1, though, it's your Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers have continued to just not lose games. Not only has their offense been amazing all season long, but now they have the second best defense in the NBA since the All-Star break. Where did that come from? That is dangerous. Not only that, but they've won 15 straight games again. 15 straight games again. They are the 6th team in NBA history to have multiple 15-plus game winning streaks. They've done it twice this season. The Thunder have done it once this season. If they win again, it'll be the longest streak of the season, but they also had a 12-game winning streak baked into this as well. This is insane what they're doing. This is a real championship contender, and what Kenny Atkinson has done with this squad is amazing. Coach of the Year stuff out of him. The Cleveland Cavaliers are once again your number 1 NBA power rank team. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Once again, top 10. We've got a tie at 10th with the Pacers, the Pistons, and the Bucks. At 9th, we've got the Rockets. 8th, the Warriors. 7th, the Knicks. 6th, the Grizzlies. 5, the Lakers. 4, the Nuggets. 3, the Celtics. 2, the Thunder. And number 1, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the MLB. Some big news coming out of there, but we're going to break down the Minnesota Twins, a team that dealt with injuries over the last couple seasons, but if they can stay healthy, how dangerous can they be? We'll answer that question coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found. For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, if you are just tuning in. We just finished going over our Wednesday NBA Power Rankings. In this segment, we turn our attention over to baseball. Just about 2 weeks until the season kicks off. We're going to break down every single team. We're in the midst of it. We're finishing up the AL Central this week. Today, taking a look at the Minnesota Twins. We're going to talk about what they did this offseason and if they can stay healthy, what their season outlook might be. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, March 12th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into a little bit on the Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins are a very, very good baseball team. They come into this season as a team that is a big what-if question, though, because up and down their roster, season after season, they cannot stay healthy. Whether that's Byron Buxton, whether that's Royce Lewis, whether that's Carlos Correa, and any of the pitching staff that has been amazing for them, they just cannot stay healthy to put together a full season of great baseball. But you look at this Twins team, and on paper, yet again, it is an excellent squad. Last season, even though they were dealing with injuries, it was arguably the least injured year in a while for them. They finished 80-82. And in the AL Central, usually that's good enough for at least third place, but they were fourth. A very good AL Central last year. They missed the playoffs at 82-80. They weren't too busy in free agency. They weren't too busy. They didn't make too many moves. They brought in Ty France, formerly of the Mariners, of the Reds. He was cut. He hasn't had his best season in a couple of years. 1 year, $1 million to play first base. He's a guy that if he can turn back the clock a little bit to 2021, 2022, he can be an excellent addition, but he was a major negative for the Mariners for a lot of last season before getting cut. I'm curious if it's going to work out. Not too much risk, not too much risk, high reward for Ty France if he's able to turn it around and play like he did at his best with the Mariners. Outfielder Harrison Bader is brought in 1 year, $6.25 million. I like that signing. A great bench bat, a guy that can come in and play solid defense, step up when you need him against righties or lefties. Harrison Bader is a guy that I think could do a lot for this squad. Add a nice little power bat, add some speed. I like Bader on a $6.25 million prove-it deal. And for the bullpen, they brought in Danny Colombe. Danny Colombe, 1 year, $3 million. All of these signings are meaningful, right? They didn't have a lot of these signings that don't mean too much. All of these guys are going to contribute to the opening day roster. All of these guys are going to come in and be a big part of what they're trying to do as they try and, get over the hump that they've been so unable to the last couple of years. They did lose a couple key pieces, though. Carlos Santana, little older, but still a nice piece, near Gold Glove level play at first base last year. Anthony DeSclafani, a solid starting pitcher. Caleb Tealbar for the bullpen. He found his house somewhere else. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. And Max Kepler in the outfield. All of these guys were big on the team last year, but basically went 1-for-1 on replacing them when it comes to free agency. Ty France for Carlos Santana, Harrison Bader for Max Kepler, and Danny Colombe for Caleb Tealbar. They still have a very, very good team, right? We're talking about a very good division, too. We've talked about the Royals, how they got better, although some scary news coming out of them with Bobby Witt getting hit by a 96-mile-per-hour pitch today. He should be good, avoided any broken bones. Not sure what the timeline is for him, though. We talked a little bit about the White Sox maybe getting worse, which would be crazy from where they were last season. But this is a division that continues to be good. The Tigers, I think, got better as well. We talked about them yesterday. But this lineup is nothing to scoff at, right? You've got Matt Wallner or Harrison Bader leading off lefty or righty and right field. You also got Jose Miranda, who can step in there as well. Shortstop, Carlos Correa, hitting second. He continues to be one of the more underrated players in the game. Going off to Minnesota doesn't do a lot for your publicity. And Carlos Correa, since leaving the Astros, I feel like he's kind of fallen under the radar a little bit. He's really good. He's going to go out, play amazing baseball, be a great hitter as well, if he can stay healthy. Same can be said about center fielder Byron Buxton, a guy that has all of the talent in the world. Every single ounce of baseball talent was put into that man. He just cannot stay healthy. He was healthy last season, wasn't his best season, played over 100 games, but he's a guy with MVP potential if he can stay healthy and get back to the way he was playing a couple years ago. In left field, you've got Trevor Larnach or Jose Miranda or Harrison Bader, depending on how you want to do this. Willie Castro can come in and play a little bit. But that is a solid outfield right there. Royce Lewis, we talked about. When he is healthy, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. Just power hitter. Home run after home run after double after home run after home run after double. He is just going to be a beast at the plate. Royce Lewis at third base, if he can stay healthy, will be a monster. And again, we keep saying that if he can stay healthy, that is the motto for the Twins, if you can stay healthy. Ryan Jeffers behind the plate, hitting sixth. Willie Castro, DHing Ty France, taking a swing on him, being your starting first baseman. You've also got Jose Miranda, who can come in and play first base. Brooks Lee at second. This is a really good lineup, especially the top 6, 7. This is a lineup that, again, I'm going to say the phrase again, if they can stay healthy, will be a danger in this AL Central. But it's not just the lineup you have to worry about. You have the rotation with a couple guys that can be a true ace, like Pablo Lopez at the top. He was traded to the Twins from the Marlins a couple years ago. He has been amazing. He was a part of that trade that sent Luis Arias down to Miami. Now Arias over in San Diego. But Joe Ryan behind him, as well as Bailey Ober, is a very good top 3. You've got Simeon Woods Richardson at number 4 and Chris Paddock at 5. None of these guys are bad. All of these very solid starting pitching. The bullpen, though, is really where they shine. They have one of the best closers in the game. You want to talk about a fireballer, you want to talk about a flamethrower, that is exactly what you get in Joan Duran. Joan Duran is a guy that is consistently hitting 104, has touched 105 in the past. You look at the top 10 fastest pitches thrown in the MLB last season, he's got at least 6 of them. He is that special of a guy. He is an amazing closer. He's got all the stuff you want. Duran, amazing. Griffin Jacks, no slouch in and of itself. At the setup role, Cole Sands back there as well as Brock Stewart, Danny Colombe we talked about, Jorge Alcala, Cody Funderbunk, and Luis Varland to close out that bullpen. This is a team that up and down is loaded with talent. This is a team that, if they can stay healthy, can win 90 games in a division. But again, I said it there again. You heard me, right? I can't keep saying it. If they can stay healthy. This is a team that continues to battle that injury bug. This is a team that continues to have the worst injury luck in all of baseball. Their players are just very injury prone. And it's unfortunate because you want to build the best team and you have the guys to do it. But this is a dangerous team. Again, like I said, if they can stay healthy, they win 90 games. 90 and 72 is their ceiling. But if they can't stay healthy, if they get hurt, if a couple of their guys go down for a large majority of the season, I could see them winning 80 games. So they have a very large difference. Their over-under set at 83.5 games this year. I think overall the talent here is going to push them more toward the top of that. So I'm going to sit somewhere around 86, 87 games for them. But again, not usually that 5-game difference that I give you. 10-game swing in this one because I just don't know what their health is going to be like this season. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think this team is going to look like in 2024, 2025, 2026, excuse me? Do you think they're going to be able to get over the hump? Do you think they'll win this AL Central, a very stacked division? I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention over to the NHL. It's been a while since we talked about hockey, but they, like the NBA, are getting down to crunch time. About 15 games remaining in their schedule. We're going to talk about where these standings are right now, who's going to make the playoffs, and who could win the President's Trophy, best record in the league. We'll talk about that and more coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, if you were just tuning in. We just finished going over what the Minnesota Twins might look like next season after a pretty solid offseason for them, again, if they can stay healthy. In this segment, we turn our attention to hockey. The world of hockey is going wild, right? The season is winding down. Just about 15 games remaining for each and every single team. We'll talk about where they stand, who's going to make the playoffs, and who could have the best record in the league. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, March 12th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into a little bit of the NHL, where the standings look at right now, post-trade deadline. As we stand right now, there is about 15 games. Most teams have played 64, 65, or 66 games in the regular season, an 82-game regular season. So we're looking at anywhere from 16 to 18 games left to play for each and every one of these teams. We are down to the stretch. We're going to start off with the battle for the President's Trophy. For those who don't know, the President's Trophy is for whoever has the most points at the end of the NHL season. 2 points for a win, 1 point for a loss in overtime, no points for a normal loss. Right now, there are 3 main contenders, and really there's two teams that have separated from the rest, but there's 5 teams that are within 10 points of that coveted trophy. Now, it does come with a curse. A lot of times, the team that wins the President's Trophy finds a way to lose in the playoffs. We haven't seen a President's Trophy team win in quite a while, but this year, there's a lot of contenders. So we're going to start off at number 5. At number 5, playing 64 games so far. At number 5, playing 65 games so far, we have the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers, 40-22-3, 83 points. The reigning Stanley Cup champions continue to be near the top of the NHL again. They are second place in the Eastern Conference for points, only behind a team at the very top of our standings. But at 65 games played, this is a team that is still a chance at the President's Trophy. If they continue to play great hockey the way they have, they've got a chance to finish with the best record in the league. The Vegas Golden Knights at number 4 here, same amount of points, 83 points, 38-19-7, with 64 games played. So they've got an extra game to catch up to the Panthers. They could count that as 2 points, put them at 85 if they win. But the Vegas Golden Knights continue to be amazing. They have been a little bit disappointing last season after using that long-term IR strategy again. They fizzled out in the playoffs, losing a hard-fought series in the first round. They go down, and then they kind of disappeared this offseason. They were busy yet again at the trade deadline. They go out, make all the moves that you expect a contender to make, and they're back near the top of the league, at the top of their division, a hotly contested division in the Central. But the Vegas Golden Knights, 4th place as far as President's Trophy goes. But then the top 3, the real contenders. We have the Dallas Stars, 64 games played for them. They're at 42-20-2, putting them at 86 points, 3 points clear of the Panthers and the Golden Knights. This is a Stars team that I think is one of the more complete ones in all of hockey. They have a great goaltender in Jake Ottinger. They make some trades to bring in a guy like Mikko Rantanen. They give up Logan Stankoven, as well as a couple other picks and players, but the Dallas Stars continue to be near the top of the league. They've got a young core that's locked in for a long time. They give Rantanen an extension, everything he wants, and this is a Stars team that's going to be very dangerous. They're at 86 points. In second, we have the Winnipeg Jets. 66 games played for them, 45-17-4. Good for 94 points. 8 points clear of the Dallas Stars, sitting at number 2. This really feels like more of a 2-horse race at the end of the day between the Jets and the Capitals, both of whom have 94 points. The Capitals are ahead of them right now just because they've played one less game. They've got a game in hand at them. That could be an extra 2 points, an extra 1 point, depending on how it goes. So right now the Caps have that early edge, 65 games to 66 games, but they both have 94 points. The Caps, 43-14-8, have really been the surprise of the year. They barely snuck into the playoffs last year, but with Alex Ovechkin playing great hockey, you have Pierre-Luc Dubois coming out of nowhere to really come into his own. Alexei Protas and Connor McMichael, both with over 20 goals this season. Tom Wilson also over 20 goals. This is a team that has really been complete, fast, physical, and has great goaltending from Charlie Lindgren, who they extended, as well as Logan Thompson, who they gave a 6-year extension to earlier this season. This is a Caps team that's going to be very good and very dangerous when it comes to the playoffs. But when we turn our attention to the rest of the season for the President's Trophy race, I still think it's going to be between the Caps and the Jets. I think at the end of the day, the Caps have had this in the bag for most of the season, but I think the Jets are going to pull it out at the end. I think the Jets hold on to that, grab that President's Trophy spot, probably by a game or two, but it's going to be close. It's going to be very, very close down the stretch. When we talk about these divisions, in hockey, there's 2 divisions. The way it works is the top 3 points getters from each division find their way to the playoffs, and there's 2 wildcard teams from each of the conferences. So we're going to start off breaking down these divisions. In the East, there's 2 divisions, the Atlantic and the Metropolitan. The Atlantic division is a big mess right now. You got the Florida Panthers at number 1, 83 points, followed by the Maple Leafs at 81, the Lightning at 78. Those right now would be the 3 teams that automatically qualify for the playoffs, but not too far behind them. You've got the Ottawa Senators, 73 points, just 5 games back of the Tampa Bay Lightning, 5 points back of the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Canadiens and the Bruins both tied at 5th with 68 points, 10 points back of the Lightning with about 20 games to go. It's possible for them to come back. When we're looking at these division contenders, it's always tough. The Lightning have had great goaltending. The Senators also been a pretty happy surprise this season, but I think at the end of the day in the Atlantic, we're going to keep the top three. The Panthers, the Leafs, and the Lightning. I think 5 points is just a little bit too big of a spread to make up down the stretch here, especially when the Lightning continue to play the way that they have this season. In the Metropolitan, I also think it's boring. You've got the Capitals way up top with 94 points. The Hurricanes behind them by 12 at 82, second in the division. The Jersey Devils, 76 points, 6 points back of the Carolina Hurricanes. And then the contenders to try and steal that last spot. The Devils lost their best player. That's going to be tough for them down the stretch. The Columbus Blue Jackets, 70 points, 6 games, 6 points back. That's going to be one to watch. The Rangers have 68 points. If they get hot at the right time, they can find their way in. And the Islanders, 65 points, barely on the cusp of being a contender in this division. I think really it's going to be a race between those three teams. I think the Capitals and the Hurricanes, they find their way in pretty easy. In fact, I think the Caps have all but locked up a playoff spot right now. Obviously, still playing for more, but Hurricanes probably also locked up a spot. The Devils need to hang on by the skin of their teeth. They need to survive without Jack Hughes. They need to survive without their best player. Right now, the Rangers and the Blue Jackets are right behind them. That's going to be a race to watch. I think at the end of the day, 6 points is a lot of points, but I think the Devils will find a way to hold on just because they have a big enough lead. If this was a 3-point lead or if it was a 4-point lead, honestly, it would look a little bit different. But 6 points with just about 15 games to play is tough to make up, and I think they'll find a way because they still are a good team even without Hughes. Getting into the Western Conference, the Central Division really has 4 guys that can make it. You got the Jets at 94 points, the Stars at 86 points, the Avalanche at 81 points, and the Wild at 78 points. The Wild have been a little bit slow down the stretch here, but they're going to get Kirill Kaprizov back soon. They're only 3 points back of the Colorado Avalanche, the Avalanche, who just lost 2-1 to the Minnesota Wild the other night. That was a massive game for them. Pick up 2 points in regulation. That is huge. Cut the lead to just 3. Game and a half right there, basically, for the Minnesota Wild between them and the Avalanche. I think the Wild come and take this. I think the Jets and the Stars are pretty safe. I think the Wild come and take that 3rd spot in this division, and the Avalanche fall down to a wild card position. They'll still probably make the playoffs, though. In the Pacific, you've got a really tight race, right? No team is pulling away with anything. The Golden Knights, 83 points at the top of their division. The Edmonton Oilers, 5 points behind them, 78 points. The Kings, 77 in 3rd, and then you've got a bit of a drop-off. The Flames at 70 points and the Canucks at 69 points. That is going to be a tough one to make up. Again, I think these division races are pretty much settled. A lot can happen, but I think the Knights, the Oilers, and the Kings, they find their way back to the top, back in the playoffs again. But then the wild card is where it really gets interesting. In the Eastern Conference, the Ottawa Senators, I think, are basically a lock. 73 points, 5 points over the number 3 team. I think they're going to get in just fine, but that second wild card spot is going to be a bloodbath. The Columbus Blue Jackets currently hold it at 70 points, but the Canadiens, the Rangers, the Bruins, and the Red Wings are all within striking distance. The Canadiens, the Rangers, and the Bruins all at 68 points, just 2 points back of the Blue Jackets here as we make it to the wild card race. The Detroit Red Wings, 2 points back of that at 66, and the Islanders at 65. I think with the goaltending and the just pure star power, I think the Rangers find their way to get in over the Blue Jackets. Would be a great story if the Blue Jackets get in, of course, with the Gaudreau tragedy that struck this summer. It'd be crazy if they were to make it in, but I think the Rangers find their way in over the Blue Jackets down the stretch here. In the Western Conference, currently the Minnesota Wild have a pretty hefty lead for that wild card spot at 78 points. The Calgary Flames at 70 points hold that second spot. Like I said, I think the Wild are going to find a way to win their division or finish 3rd in their division. So I think the Avalanche fall to the top spot in the Western Conference wild card race. But then again, a tight race for the last spot in the wild card, as it always is. There are 4 teams that are alive for it. You got the Flames currently holding at 70 points. The Canucks and the Blues, 1 point back of them at 69 points. The Utah Hockey Club, a brand new franchise moving from Arizona, at 67 points. Those are your real contenders for here. Don't look now. The Ducks maybe find a way in. 63 points, they're not dead yet, especially with a tight race down the stretch here. Maybe they can find a way in, but at the end of the day, I think it's really a 4-horse race. The Flames, the Canucks, the Blues, and the Utah Hockey Club. I think the Blues find a way in. Their offense has been prolific. Their defense has been pretty solid as well, and I think just 1 point back of the Flames, they're going to find their way into that final wild card spot. So the playoffs look like, as I predict right now, the Capitals, Hurricanes, and Devils out of the Metro, the Panthers, the Leafs, and the Lightning out of the Atlantic. In the wild card for the East, the Senators and the Rangers take those final 2 spots. In the West, the Jets, the Stars, and the Wild make it in from the Central. The Knights, the Oilers, and the Kings out of the Pacific. And from the wild card, you have the Colorado Avalanche and the St. Louis Blues. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who do you think's going to make the playoffs in the NHL? I'd love to hear what you think. And thank you everybody so much for tuning in to today's episode of GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We will be back tomorrow, going over everything from around the world of sports, all of the major breaking news from the NFL, from the NBA, from the game of the year potentially between the Celtics and the Thunder that's going on right now. And I will see you then. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to